Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. We are the CLAIP group, the Latin American Research Council for Peace, the Latin panel, if you want to hear that. And now we are going to tell you who we are and what we did during this pandemic year. Year of uncertainty with loss of economic, work, lives, and opportunities. We are one of the IPRA regions. And this year, based on an idea from the co-secretary of CLAIP, Esteban Ramos, and from the National Autonomous University of Honduras, our work was carried out intensely, not only from an investigation as was normally done before, but also a joint work between the youth of various countries from Latin America, developing a campaign that was called Por una nueva normalidad, for a new normality. Last year, in the last CLAIP Congress in Sao Paulo, Brazil, we set out not only to do research, but to develop actions in territory in order to work on the transformation for peace. And then, with that purpose, this idea arises in response to the pandemic, a pandemic that landed in Latin America in the month of March. And it is at that moment that, from Honduras, we raised this issue of normality. The whole world kept repeating, when we get back to normal, when we get back to normality. Then Esteban, with a group of students, thought, to what normality do we want to return? That was the question. And that's how this campaign for a new normality began. The answer to that question, we are going to hear it, to see it in a video we are going to see now. And then I'm going to present you the people who produced this campaign.
La profunda crisis mundial que hoy sufrimos a causa del virus SARS-CoV-2
es un síntoma de la normalidad enferma en la que vivíamos.
Ningún bien está a salvo
del egoísmo exacerbado por políticas privatizadoras
que se hacen pasar por públicas.
Ni el agua que bebemos,
ni el aire que respiramos.
No mata el virus tanto
como lo hace la perversa normalidad a la que nos afanamos por regresar.
Una normalidad que consiste, en el mejor de los casos,
en mirar hacia otro lado mientras consumimos irresponsablemente.
Es la normalidad que invadió nuestro sentir
y condicionó nuestros anhelos y sueños.
Que colonizó nuestro pensar
al arrinconar los saberes ancestrales de nuestros pueblos,
otorgando un valor superior a la apariencia sobre la esencia.
La normalidad a la que nos empeñamos por regresar sin cuestionar
es la de una conciencia anestesiada.
Esa que no repara en los impactos tremebundos de un sistema corrupto y corruptor que hicimos nuestro.
Una nueva normalidad.
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 Una nueva normalidad es posible y necesaria.
And now here we have Esteban Ramos. He's doctor in political science from the University of Valladolid, Spain. He's currently the coordinator of the peace area of the University Institute on Democracy, Peace and Security, the Youth Pass of the University of Honduras. Pablo Roberto Loyola Kuhlman.
Hello.
Esteban. Now, Pablo Roberto Loyola Kuhlman. Can you say something?
Hello.
Yes, there.
Hello.
Paulo is a professor of international relations at the State University of Paraíba, Brazil, and he also is a social clown, our dear Mancada Obon. Diana Marcela Agudelo, she is a research professor at the University del Externado de Colombia, and Carla, Bachelor of Publicity.
Hi, everyone.
Well, say hello, everybody.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Well, all of us, we are CLAIP people. We are members, and the young people you see here, they are part of the team that created, designed, and developed the New Normality campaign. I'm very proud to have them here. I'm very proud to know them, and I'm very proud to be able to share this work with them. Now, I invite you all, audience, to listen to them. Marcela, you can start.
Okay, hello, thank you, Marite. Hello, everyone. Good morning, evening, afternoon, well, everywhere that you seeing us. So, as Marite was saying, we want to present this new normalcy proposal. We've been working with this wonderful group of people for a few months now. And we were wondering at the time all of this started about what is exactly that we want to go back to. We wanted to establish a proposal that can that allow us to interrogate what we were living and what is that we were striving to return. And in that sense, we were wondering about this question about what exactly does life mean to us, and what is it? What do we want to do with it? What is the rush to go back to normality? So we were starting to understand that actually the problem wasn't necessarily the virus, but understanding the virus was more like a symptom of our time and the sick normality that we were going through. And most of it, the way we got used to it, on it. So this was more like a world crisis that for us turned into a call for action. And in this sense, we want to present to you this in three starting points as something urgent and as something necessary and as something that is possible. So the first point about being urgent in this call for action is that this crisis made evident the precariousness and the cracks of globalized capitalism, a system that became as a way of acting, as a way of feeling, and as a way of thinking, a perverse normality that actually colonized us. And then all these manifestations in the healthcare systems and the lack of hospitals and the lack of ventilators and the lack of medicine, accompanied by a full vein of hopes to save for avoiding more deaths. It was just this symptom that crashed into this necessity, huge necessity to transform things. So that's the second point I want to talk to you now. That is, why is this a necessity? So we talk about this normality as a model of civilization that prioritizes death and particular interest accumulation through dispossession. So we think nothing is safe, nor the water we drink, nor the air we breathe, not even our freedom, that freedom that we like to dream about. In this frame is more confused with self-exploitation. Okay, so we can ignore anymore that our consumed practices and comfort are maybe sources, and in the best case, that are just irresponsible, maybe corrupt, and corrupting by this system that we made ours. So in the third point, I want to mention, before that, I would like to say a few data about Latin America for taking into an example for this. That is, for the necessity, Latin America is one of the most unequal continents in the globe. So 9 out of 10 of the most unequal countries are in Latin America. Famine affected something like 42.5 million people in 2018. The deforestation was up to 185,329 acres in 2019. And then, for example, each 30 hours, a woman gets killed in Argentina because of being a woman. So all these data make us feel that, okay, maybe the virus is not as virulent and as complicated as the life itself as we were living and going through it. So the last point I want to talk to you about is the possibility. And we were discussing about, well, okay, so we need to change pretty much everything, but we don't need to be waiting for other people to start with this transformation, but we have to, how can we create a strategy for making it ourselves? Because if this violent normality made us accomplices in production, reproduction, and standardization of explosion, hatred, poverty, pain, violence, fear, violation, frustration, depression, and death, well, also, if we are accomplices, maybe also we are the key for that transformation. So as Latin American people, we recognize in our history, in our lands, and in our living communities that we have different directions that can lead actually to live with dignity. So we decided to problematize, reflect, think again, speak loud, connect, become agents of history, turn uncertainty into opportunity. That's why we designed this manifesto and all the strategy that my partners are about to tell you more.
Well, Marcela, I kept thinking from that data you have just shared to us. It is a scary data. It horrifies me to think that in the third decade of the 21st century, we still have so much inequality, that there are still children who do not eat, that women are still treated as merchandise or second-class citizens. I'm very sad thinking that a little part of society has everything, and another part of society has nothing. We live in a continent where no formal war is recognized, but it is a continent where there is no peace at all. CLAIP has been studying and researching for more than 23 years. And although all that work has been very important, this is the moment in which we must go from the strictly academic to reality. Even if it is not, at least to show the world our reality, that reality that must be changed. I want a new normality, not the old one. And all this excites me a lot. I would like one of you to say something, perhaps Esteban.
Hello to everybody. Well, to give an account of the path that we followed during this initiative for a new normality, it is worth mentioning some of the theoretical considerations that help us to outline the action that we are doing. So first of all, I would like to say that we do understand peace research as a transformative research, a type of research that is not developed to accumulate knowledge about peace, but rather research aimed to transforming conflict and violence for the benefit of peace building. We do understand also that the participatory research paradigm is the most appropriate approach in this discipline of peace and conflict studies. And that is why we decided to work with a transformative and participatory peace approach in this process in this initiative of new normality. So this theoretical and methodological conception of peace considers that peace is not an outcome. It is not the goal of an eternal obstacle course, not even a prefabricated path. We do understand that peace is a process of collective construction in permanent transformation that emerges when human beings put into practice actions that promote the synergic attention of needs. And this implies three very important points. First, human beings are the protagonists of peace, conflicts, and violence. Therefore, we, all of us, must necessarily be incorporated into the process of research, education, and communication for peace building and conflict transformation. An integral participation of the whole citizenship as subject of research, subject of education and communication process, and subject of the action for peace is absolutely necessary. From the transformative peace approach, participation is not just a desirable condition, but is a need. Second important thing, there is no universal recipe for peace, although sensing, thinking, action, and reflection is considered necessary for peace building. What may be useful in one context may not be useful in another. That may seem obvious, but it is not. In fact, we see one time or another how uniform, prefabricated recipes for peace buildings are implemented in the most of diverse scenarios. Third important question. The peace building process should be as comprehensive as possible. This implies addressing the following 4 dimensions. Number 1 dimension, internal, personal dimension, which in Hinduism would be associated with Shanti. This means the harmonic imbalance of mind and heart. This implies the transformation of the person, his or her attitude, the elimination of violent impulses, the recognition of hatred, anger, envy, etc., and their transformation. Number 2, very important dimension is the social dimension, which has to do with the relationships that we build between human beings in any field or scale. It is associated with the construction of cultures. As Adam Kurle would say, it is about the establishment of equitable, fair relations. As we can say, it means that we must build relations that promote the synergic attention of needs. Number 3, structural dimension, is the construction of political and economical systems that also promote this synergic attention of needs. This implies basically transforming both the basic principles of an economic model based on profit maximization and wealth accumulation and the basic principles of the political system based on representativity. So essentially, because they are considered responsible for the production and reproduction of structural violence. Number 4 dimension is the environmental dimension. It implies the transformation of the sort of relationships that we human beings establish with nature. As our ancestral Latin American people would say, with Pachamama. That implies moving from exploitation of Mother Earth to care and respect of Mother Earth. So, as we have said, this is a process that emerges when we manage to promote synergic attention of needs. Peace is in permanent construction and in permanent redefinition by human beings, and peace building should be participatory. In order to promote that logic from the approach of transformative peace, by the way, you can read more about this approach in the chapter 3, which is called Transformative and Participatory Peace, that is included in the book edited by Ursula Oswald and Hans-Günther Braut about the last IPRA conference, which is going to be now in a week or two. You can read it. So we proposed a method of participatory construction of peace-building coexistence that, in broad terms, should contemplate the development of 3 strategic lines: research for transformative peace, conflict transformation, and education and communication for transformative peace. So in order to develop this initiative for a new normality, we also use the theory of 2-step flow of communication proposed by Latherfeld, Berenson, and Gaudet, according to which the training of peer-to-peer leaders encourages the communicative exercise in the participants' own social networks. In our case, this favored the development of an opinion trend critical of the pre-pandemic normality and favorable to the participatory and sensing thinking construction of the new normality. The aim was to promote the development of active subjects so that they could stimulate sensing thinking reflections in their own networks. Given the situation of the confinement in which we were in the second quarter of the year, and still we are, the communicative action mainly took place in the family network and, of course, in virtual social networks such Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, WhatsApp, and YouTube. So this communicational exercise was based on the two-way symmetrical communication model of Gruning and Hunt. It does not aim to convince, but to generate proposals or solutions in a dialogical conversational process. Additionally, to promote this peer-to-peer activism for a new normalcy, it was necessary to resort to the concept of transformative peace education. As I proposed along with Manuel Montañez, education for transformative peace is understood as a participatory, practical, and dialogical process of sensing thinking for the construction or the reinforcement of knowledge, feelings, and actions, and of a willingness to know, feel, and do for the promotion of nonviolent transformation of conflicts and models of synergic attention of needs in, among, and from the subjects that give life to the process. It was on these theoretical foundations that the New Normality project was developed. And it was in the peace program of the National Autonomous University of Honduras where the first steps were taken, as Marité tells us before. In this academic department, we have been developing for several years different processes of education and communication for peace under this logic that I am telling. The university's Young Volunteers for Peace program planted the seed of this initiative based on the experience accumulated in previous communicational processes such as Contraviol. Maybe you know about Contraviol because we talked about Contraviol last in the Ahmedabad conference. So Contraviol is just a fictitious medicine that we build up in order to fight against all kind of violences. It was just a way of feeling, a sensing thinking with people, trying to talk with people and try to understand why and which kind of different violence we suffer. No? So, well, based on this basis and this knowledge that we accumulate, we start to design the first ideas of this project that we are presenting now. So the young students in the program actively participate in the process of designing, planning, and development the New Normality project, which started as a communication campaign for transformative peace and has gradually acquired the characteristics of a Latin American social movement. I will now briefly outline three methodological phases that have been undertaken to this day in order to understand a little bit how do we did all of this. The first one is birth, the second one is going to be development and expansion phase, and the third one is consolidation, from a communicational campaign to a social movement. So although each phase has involved the application on specific research and participatory techniques as participatory meetings of social creativity, brainstorming, provocative analysis and operation, focus group, etc. I will not go into detail, but I will tell little things of each phase. In the first phase, birth, the concept and general communication strategy was collectively defined. Later on, Carla will explain in depth the design of the communication strategy and its basis. For now, I just want to outline the basic three components of communication that we implemented. One is the Manifesto for a New Normality, which is a decalogue that guides the action reflection necessary for the construction of the new normality. This manifesto draws the horizon we desire. The collection for initial signatures by organizations, scholars, and social movements was conducted before this release. Another one are the reflective cards. These contain critical ideas about normality in a direct and attractive format for all audiences, especially oriented into young people. You can see these cards in here. The third component are the social networks and the webpage. We turned to be spaces for the dissemination and further development of debates on the issues addressed in the cards and also in the manifesto. So the second phase was the development and expansion phase. At this point, there was a transition for a national communication campaign from Honduras to a regional initiative from Latin America. This does not mean that before there was no participation of international actors in the birth and feedback of the initial idea. In fact, the collective construction of the manifesto involved actors from different countries linked to the Latin American Peace Research Council. It is precisely from this participation that this second phase emerges. Here we identify two important issues. The conformation of an organizational structure that goes from being a small core group to being a network of thematic work teams with multinational participation and nodes articulated by country. Both academic actors linked to CLIPE and independent organizations, movement, and individuals in Latin America were involved. Upon learning about the manifesto, they decided to not only sign, but also to actively participate in the dissemination and the development of different actions related to the process. The second important issue is the definition of the spirit and methodology that guides the activities. This was especially important. The generation of participatory, sensing thinking, direct democracy process in the framework of the initiatives had to be coherent with the new normality that we aim to build. So the participatory, dialogical, conversational, horizontal methodology was stimulated in and by the already active sectors, as well as the ones that were being progressively integrated into the process. Each team and node had to adapt this spirit to the operation in order to design and carry out the diverse actions that we were put into practice. From this phase, we can draw some significant lessons. When emotional ties were generated, a consensus was reached on the working method, and horizontal leadership emerged, it was possible to promote teamwork, to consolidate the team and the project, and much more creativity and new actions emerged. As, for example, video manifesto, video craft, video dance, forums, webinars, press releases, talks, etc. To say it in other words, multiple brains and hearts were put at the service of the process. On the contrary, in other groups in which emotional ties were not generated, or there was no consensus on how to proceed, or no committed leaderships emerged, it was noted that when the novelty declined a little bit and no significant results were achieved, there was erosion of the team, a certain contagious discouragement that in some cases led to withdrawal or abandonment of activism even. In the third phase, which is where we are at the moment, we call it the consolidation phase of the initiative, begins. So going from a regional communication campaign to adopting the characteristics of a big social movement. So new actors and organizations are incorporated to the process, new contents, new proposals are developed, and the organizational structure is being reconfigured. This phase begins in a collective follow-up meetings in which a provocative question arises, a question that challenges us as organizational process. So the question was, and now what? Okay, no? We arrived to this point, but now what? From that moment on, we began to enlarge and strengthen the core group. Also, new actions and the articulation of other actors and organizations began to be promoted. The work done by the country nodes, especially from Chile, and the multinational teams called Dream Provokers became one of the articulating elements of all the proposal. This team has the mission of setting up reflection and direct action groups around each of the 10 points of the manifesto. Later on, Paolo will go deeper into this subject, but I would like to say that at this moment, the decision had been made to focus the work on other actions beyond the communicational ones, which should be designed in a participatory way within these direct action groups. At this precise moment, we are in the process of systematizing and self-evaluating all the journey. The objective is to critically reconstruct the whole experience in order to guide what is yet to come. Among other things, to establish the links between this movement and the 12th Latin American Congress of Peace Research that will take place in August 2021, in which all of you are absolutely welcome. At this point, it will be Carla will comment on the particularities related to the design of the communication strategy, the construction of the concept, and the graphic image of the campaign for a new normalcy. Thanks a lot.
Carla.
Hi, hello. Just as Esteban was telling you, I'm here to tell you a little bit more about how this project came to be, strictly in terms of communication. I became involved with the project right in the beginning stages, when it was still developing, it was still taking shape. And since my academic and professional background is in advertising, to put it in those terms, we were brainstorming. We were trying to create a new concept. By then, we had identified a need and a purpose. We knew this needed to be said, and we knew what we wanted to achieve with it, with our message, and with this project in general. So we were at the how phase. How do we say this, and how do we deliver our message? The answer to this was our core concept, what the project came to be known as, which is a new normal or a new normality is possible and necessary. This is then our core concept. Under this, all other communication projects will be created. The first of these communication products was the manifesto, which is one of the basic expressions of our concepts, since it held the essence of everything we wanted to say in its most clear and explicit way also. It was thoughtfully written so as to cover every theme, to cover all our bases, so to speak, in the movement's complete scope. The next step was sharing it, getting across to as many people as possible. And for that, we relied on platforms, digital platforms such as our website and change.org. Beyond the manifesto, we needed supporting messages that would further the manifesto, that would take it beyond its shape and its written form. And because of the familiar circumstances of that time, at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of lockdown, we knew we had certain factors to consider, certain limitations, so to speak. One was relying mainly on digital channels. Next was certain budget and production restrictions, which basically applied to everything. In advertising terms, for example, there was no commercial for production of anything really for a time period. But then again, I mean, relying on the digital world is not really a limitation, since anything is possible in the digital world, but it was something that perhaps not all of us were used to, taking this kind of project to this level. So that was, yes, challenging. Considering all this, we had to create our messages in line with the manifesto and develop their graphic version or presentation, which is basically how the project would look. In this sense, we knew our messages had to be short and clear, very friendly and very easy to read. So we relied on insights, which in advertising is basically an essential truth, is a common denominator that most people can recognize to be true. And these insights came from the reality of what we were living in a collective way, not just as a country, not just as a group, but really as a region in the whole of Latin America. And these insights had to be attractive and clear because they were meant to draw people in. People were meant to see them and want to know more about the project, want to read the manifesto, and in the best case scenario, want to join the movement and collaborate. In time, we also realized these insights needed to be backed up by information so as to seem more real and grounded, which is why we gathered and shared this data that goes with every message. We call them like the back messages, but really they were like the supporting information, the supporting data. And this came in all forms and shapes. It was news of what was happening, it was testimonies or just historical facts that proved that what we were living had some background to it. It was not something new or something so unexpected, so to speak. And again, for our communication, something else that we had to consider was our tone, how we were going to say what we wanted to say. And early on, we knew that it had to be like a denouncement, like a complaint, so to speak. Because the real situation of what we were going through, it was not nice, it was not friendly, it was not easy, it was very raw, very real. You might even call it harsh. But in time, we also decided that we needed to support this original intention because we didn't want to limit ourselves to pointing problems, but we wanted to contribute solutions. So we decided we needed to undertake different tones too, like a more reflexive tone and a more positive tone, because we wanted to add some cheerfulness, some hopefulness to this whole thing, to the whole situation. We wanted the project to bring forth something else. Visually, we knew we couldn't go crazy production-wise because of the limitations I established earlier. It had to be something that was graphically easy to make and adapt, and that really highlighted the messages, which was the main thing of what we wanted to share. So we knew it had to be a more type-based design. We added certain design details that we considered to, support what we had to say. For example, the unconventional layout, which it's a different kind of reading, but reading is still possible. It was just a little detail that we could adapt and that proved, an unconventional view, an unconventional visual representation of an unconventional reality we were going through. And then color-wise, we wanted to reflect our diversity because really we were a group of people with different backgrounds coming together for a single purpose, and we thought our colors could really communicate that. But we did stick to a very muted color palette, not so bright, because even though we knew our messages were not meant to be somber, really our reality wasn't precisely bright. And that, I think, basically covers the basics of the background of how the movement came to express itself visually, how we furthered the manifesto in our messages and what can be seen in our social media channels. But I think it's evolving constantly, especially right now at the stage we're at. It's definitely growing. And I think as we keep carrying on more actions that support the core purpose of the project, we will be able to visually adapt to this because the manifestations and expressions that we've created for it are really like grounded in the core concept. So right now we're really looking forward to what else we can do with what we've created. And I think right now Paulo will share a little bit more about his work.
Okay. I try to expose some results of campaign. This campaign achieved more than 4,400 people and more than 30 associations and social movement groups signed the manifesto. More than 2,100 followers on Facebook and 1,000 on Instagram. More than 230 posters on Instagram. A lot of seminars, presentations, lives in many universities about the Una Nueva Normalidad, about these 10 manifest points. which are environment and sustainability, solidarity and alternative economies, health and wellness education, marginalized and vulnerable populations, cultural diversities, sexual diversities and gender, self-management and participative democracy, peace culture, culture and arts. Many work teams were formed, as Esteban told. Create phrases about campaigns, support data about these phrases, translations, social network, new actions. New action, for example, the objective is inspire and nurture the campaign with videos, arts, music, and questions. Dream teaser. This last team tried to answer the question, and know what? Search for practice actions more than reflections. The objective is congregate people with the same interest to create actions. These teams congregate more than 80 people from many Latin American countries: Honduras, Argentina, Colombia, Brazil, Chile, and Mexico. Many initiatives are created: drawing made by children, translating what they think about old and new normality, reports and documentaries about points of manifest, book about the new normality, and was concepted to militant personalities to New World. For example, Carlos Taibo, Boaventura de Souza Santos, Ursula Oswald, Manuel Montanes, Stella Quintar, and others. The last initiative was certified for IPECAL, Instituto Pensamento y Cultura in América Latina, and other institutions, academic or not, try to create a kind of a formation, not necessarily academic, for these 10 points of manifesto. Thanks.
Now, Paulo told us what happened after March, but we are not the only ones here. Many young people work beyond us in different countries, and now we can hear them. Who can start? Circe, your idea.
Okay, thank you very much. Taking a bit of everything that has already been said, we can conclude that we are a group formed with an identity, a Latin American identity that is not only working for our region, but for the whole world, since the wish for peace, the wish to change this perverted normality in which we have been living is not only a regional desire, it is a desire for the world. This year, we have asked ourselves many questions, and the reflections of these questions have led us to rethink our own lives and how we want to live them. This year has also taught us that distance does not exist, that we have a connection that goes beyond technological connectivity, a connection that comes from the core of the human essence. As the representative from the Chilean node for Movimiento por una Nueva Normalidad, I would like to share with you an initiative that has brought us immense satisfaction. The drawing campaign, where we invite children between the age of 4 to 14 years old to imagine the world they wish for at the end of the pandemic. The results were tremendously enriching, so much so that today we are starting the second phase of the campaign, a drawing contest from the result of family reflection on how we envision the world in the next 5 years, how we would like for it to be. And To finish, I would like to thank the space that this organization has given us to work with a complete freedom for the better world. There is no doubt in my mind that each one of the reflections that we have had will transform into concrete actions of peace, of culture, and positive changes for the rest of the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Circe. Circe is from Chile. And now we can hear Mónica from Colombia. It was that. We cannot hear you.
Now?
Now, yes.
Hello, everyone. One moment, please. I want to share you a reflection of a friend. A friend wanted to bring her reflection with all of us, and I go to read. I want to mention the new network, connection, friendships that emerged from volunteering in the campaign. When the world changed because of COVID, I didn't believe I could meet and have such loving relationship with people of all age and from all over the Latin American region. Currently, I am in 3 subgroups of the campaign, and the experience with each one is unique. We have a reflective exercise and co-creation together. When more we meet by Zoom, the friendship was strengthened. But the further away, the motivation feels a little, but that does not matter. We all want to change the normality. Also, it is important to mention the value of turning on the cameras, listening to the other, recognizing ourselves as participants of a new normality, even if we are miles away or with different language or time difference. I resonate and join this reflection, and I want to say, Monica, it's my reflection, that in my experience in a new normal has been powerful. I am part of the group New Action within the movement, where we think different language and dynamics to interact with people, allowing reflection. One of the most significant experiences was to be able to exchange sense and knowledge, as well as to know the realities of other countries crossing the borders. To know ourselves in the encounter without borders. We found ourselves in the criticisms of that old normality that we do not want to repeat. And that is the manifestation of a civilization model that broke a continuum of violence. And also we found ourselves and we were living in the sense of possibility, in the good. We think, what is the implication of that? How do we channel it? Always thinking about the possibility, the emergence, the transformation from love and the recognition of the memories of others. Thank you very much.
Yareli. Who to speak now? Kevin, Yareli.
Hi, and I am Kevin, and I am a member of the Volunteers Peace Program in Honduras. As Esteban said, during our meetings, we thought about what alternative to give to the world problem that is the pandemic. But continuing with the topic we are talking about, I would like to emphasize that one of the most beautiful things about a new normality is that we started with people from Honduras and that people from other countries join us is to say that the campaign has crossed borders. I remember that at some point we decided to invite the people from CLIVE because there was a little more closeness, and then more people joined us. I remember when Esteban told us that there was a person who came from South America or Europe, or when people came from Africa, and what a thrill it was to see more people join, because peace is hard, but it is a beautiful process that becomes a philosophy of life. However, it is a process that has ups and downs, but it feels beautiful when we realize that there are other people who are beating on the same thing. So I think that for us as young people, and that we are taking our first steps in issues of peace building, and that encourage us to continue giving the best of use, and we understand that it will be difficult also to overcome the issue of virtuality. But I think that with this year of experience, and I think we know what to do, and we will recharge the energy, and for sure new ideas will come, because that is another thing that stand out front or moment, and that is that there are many ideas.
Now, Yareli.
Hello to everyone. My name is Yareli Aguilera. I'm from Honduras, and I share the opinions that you have given about the new normality, where peace can be built, the benefits of us. I'm going to talk about my experience in this campaign. I'm grateful to participate in this process that made me reflect on the normality I used to live, and the opportunity to have a new normality as a lifestyle. We find in the other countries people who think like us, without giving importance to age or what we do. As part of the New Nation groups, I learned many things from my partners in Colombia and Brazil. At every meeting where we worked, laughed, and reflected together, I learned new words, phrases, different perspectives, and I feel good about finding alternatives to share on social networks, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, about the importance of the new normality. My heart is grateful to know so many wonderful people, and I have come to love them so much despite the distance.
Next, I will show you a video that we made in New Actions to observe the sentimental work of language and dance, or voices saying the realities that we live and that we want to change to have a new normality.
Quiero desnudar la impunidad y la corrupción que matan y generan sufrimiento.
Quiero desnudar todo acto de eliminación del otro que nos impide comprender el mundo desde sus múltiples existencias.
Quiero desnudar todas las injusticias que vivimos en mi país, que nos limitan y hacen callar nuestras voces.
The that to return to the normality is not to dream a world life, but to live it. A new normality is possible and necessary.
Thank you for listening to me, and I invite you to continue the practice of the new normality in your lives. Thank you.
Thank you, Yareli. And now we are going to listen Karina Tomasi from Argentina.
Hello, my name is Karina Tomasi. I am from Argentina. My English level is basic, but I will do my best. I am very happy to be able to work with the Culture of Space group. We are carrying out many activities to promote this message of love and a true change in the world. We are people from different countries, and it is very nice to feel free to share our ideas and to be heard. We work in the collective construction of a culture of space. We all have different knowledge or abilities to share and learn. There is constant feedback. We work in subgroups and specific projects, hopeful phrases to be printed and distributed in the community, interviews of a significant experience, talks on education for peace. We understand that starting to educate for a peace from childhood, educators, family, community, is the key to change in the social structure. This is just the beginning. There is much more there around the world, but everything is possible. We can start with people close to us, because everything we do helps to boost the new normal that we deserve and deserve. We support each other. This is the world we dream of, the new world. We always have the possibility to start over. This is a new opportunity. This is the new opportunity. Thank you for listening to me.
Well, I don't know if any one of you want to speak again. If not, I can say that we want to leave behind that old normality. And for this, we are going to build together that peace and development that we so much need. So we have an idea that is, we build peace together, and a goal that Latin America, the world, humanity, must be fair and worthy. So, nothing else we can say, and close this panel saying or telling you that we are CLAIP and we are creating a new normality.
Okay, maybe just for a closure, I would like to say, we were asking ourselves at the very beginning of this coming together, what is it going to be written about this moment when in 100 years people read about this moment? So now this whole thing that we presented to you, this is what we're doing now. We cannot wait for anybody else to do it. It's about you and all the people around you. What can you do now for this new normalcy?
Thank you, Marcela. Paulo Mancada, say hello.
Hola, hola, hola. Solamente. Bye.
Bye to everybody.
Un abrazo grande.
Gracias.